Get more from the cloud, a podcast by AWS cloud experts at Ingram Micro Cloud.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Get More from the Cloud. This is Eric McKinley with my co-host, Mr. Tad Davis.
Hey, Eric. Good to virtually hear you and virtually see you again, my friend. It's great. I love doing these things. Today, we've got a few guest speakers that are partners of ours at Ingram that are going to tell us a little bit about their journey with Ingram. So with that, let me introduce John Kroll from Tech Reformers. John, tell us a little bit about your business.
Hi, Tech Reformers is a AWS partner, and we work primarily with K-12 school districts. So we are helping them with both cloud and cybersecurity. I started Tech Reformers a little over 2 years ago because I was a former K-12 CIO and CTO. I was most recently in Seattle and Oakland, and I really felt a need for similar school districts to have really focused attention on how to migrate to the cloud and also to build a strong cybersecurity defense. So I got together with former colleagues and formed the company, and we've been helping school districts address both those issues, cybersecurity and cloud.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and introduce our next guest. That would be Erez Antonir with Project Host. Erez, if you'd like, go ahead and let us know a little bit about yourself and Project Hosts.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. I'm running business development for Project Host. We're a cloud solution provider. We have environments in the cloud that are pre-audited and certified. Our customers are software vendors that would like to focus on developing their solution. Normally, they don't want to deal with hosting, security, and compliance. Our environments certified according to specific industries. So for example, we have one environment that is DoD Impact Level 4 and 5, where software vendors can serve the DoD branches. We have another environment that is FedRAMP certified, where software vendors can serve government agencies. One is StateRAMP certified to serve state and local and education. And one is HITRUST certified to serve healthcare organizations.
I think, Erez, let's stay with you for a moment. Let's talk a little bit about how you were first introduced to Ingram Micro Cloud and how your journey with us has started.
Yeah, it's maybe a coincidence that you're running this podcast, and I met with you at HIMSS. I think it was back in February. And we were just talking about what we do and what you do, and we thought there is some synergy. And I think that you were polite enough to go and introduce us to other people within Ingram Micro, and that's how everything started. And I guess you were right, because there is synergy, and there are a lot of things we could do together in the market. So now the relationship is flourishing, and Ingram Micro is helping us a lot with onboarding on AWS.
Yeah, that's great. And certainly, I would say luck for sure that we'd be having this conversation later on down the road, fortuitous for sure. But I think when we talked about those synergies, I remember the day well, just because in that moment at that conference in Orlando, Ingram was joining forces with 3 of our partners as we were well represented at him. So again, just great to have you as a part of this podcast today. Let's transition over to John, and really the same question. Tell us about how you were introduced to Ingram Micro Cloud and how your journey with us started.
I had heard of Ingram Micro, but I wasn't aware of the connection with the cloud. But I was at a AWS conference in Washington, D.C. It's their federal public sector conference. And just by chance, I bumped into someone from Ingram Micro and learned about their distribution services and how they work with AWS. And it was intriguing for us because we're a small company, and we were working directly with our partners at AWS. And it was kind of a slow start. And the idea of getting some help from Ingram Micro seemed really, really good.
Yeah, and I remember that. Like I got to meet you at that conference, and then we saw you again at one of our AWS roadshows in Seattle. Tell us a little bit, and I want to bring Justine O'Brien into the conversation. But tell us a little bit about starting to work with us after that point, working in an accelerated development program, and then Justine, if you want to jump in as far as how you started working with John at Tech Informers too.
Yeah, it was great meeting Justine and working closely with you, Tad, because we knew the steps we needed to follow. For instance, getting from registered to select to advanced partnership. We knew about the Think Big for Small Business, but we didn't really have the strategy or the steps. It seemed a little overwhelming to go there. And being in that program really helped us methodically work through the requirements. And we're still in that process now, but it seems definitely doable, whereas before it seemed a little overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure. It is an overwhelming process trying to get started with AWS, and John has been such a trooper of getting things done and following along with the ADP program and making sure that certifications are being completed. And I mean, just today we were talking about his pipeline, and I'm very excited about some stuff that he has for prospects. So it's been a pleasure working with John, and I'm excited to continue our relationship.
It's really helped Justine and Tad to have those regular cadence calls. So it really kept us on track, because I knew I was meeting with you on a regular basis, and it kept us, with to-dos that we were moving forward on.
So let's peel back those layers a little bit. The Accelerated Development Program, it's a great framework that AWS put together and brought to us at Ingram Micro. We started to implement it, I would say back in July with a lot of our partners. It has milestones like APN enablement, tech validation, cloud enablement engine, procurement path, and go-to-market readiness. Justine, you hit upon that as far as, John's been making such great progress, especially just going through all the different things that we do in the go-to-market readiness pillar, working on his battle card, building out the microsite, doing a partner business plan. But Rez, I wanted to pose this question to you. So got to meet you at Cloud Summit in May. I remember we were meeting outside the convention hall and everything like that. And you were very interested in learning more about training. And then we started talking to you about accelerated development. And with that, some of our cloud practitioner boot camps that were coming in. So tell us a little bit about your experience with that program so far.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been a Microsoft partner for many years. And I guess the way I view Ingram Micro is kind of a translator, because with Microsoft, for different reasons, we had to take the software path, kind of the ISV program, because we're supporting ISVs, but also it has to do with commissions and compensating the people in the field and so on and so forth. So obviously, we're starting with AWS without Ingram Micro, and the first thing we do is just join the software path. And then I meet with you, Tad, and you go through some of the details, say, why have you chosen the software part? You're like a cloud solution provider, managed service partner. And we felt like, okay, here you go, 3 months delay, because what we did. But then you said, no, that's fine. AWS allows for a dual path. Let's start the services path, and you'll be part of the consulting practice, and you don't need to do anything with the software path at this point. So having someone like Ingram Micro just letting us know certain things, it just saved a lot of time and energy for everyone. So one aspect is being a translator, because a lot of services, we've been with Azure for 10 years, and all of a sudden you start onboarding in AWS, and it's pretty much the same services, but the terms and names, they're all different. So I think it was very good to have you as kind of the eyes and the ears and let us know exactly what we need to do. People ask me about it, and I said, look, the best analogy I can have is sitting in a cockpit. I'm not a pilot by all means, but I did sit in some simulators, and you have all kind of instruments, and then you want to push a button to the next step, and someone is telling you, no, you'll push this one in 2 hours. Wait, relax. So I think that sitting in a cockpit with Ingram Micro is having like an instructor, and they just tell you when to push and what to do. So the flight is just much more smooth. That's the way I see that.
Yeah, I like that. John, how do you feel about that too? How have we been able to help you push the right buttons, so to speak?
Yeah, I think you got things in the right order and helped us prioritize. So for instance, you talked earlier about the certifications, getting those banged out so we met the minimum requirements were important.
So, and I think that it helped out at this program. It ties into so many different things. It ties in, I think, big for small business. Whereas you were able to leverage that to get to select tier and get your public sector program, get into the AWS public sector program, which has been good. Justine, when I think about partners like John and Erez, can you kind of relate to some of the challenges that your other partners have with, just kind of navigating that large ocean that is AWS?
Yeah, I think the first thing when you onboard a company like AWS or Microsoft, it's overwhelming the number of documents you have to sign and execute. And I think that you managed to kind of put some order in, whether it's, the DSA, you should sign it. The flow down term agreement, you need to sign it, otherwise you won't be. But those 3 documents you can leave for now. It's not important. You can do it next year. So leads and tips like that can save a lot of time and a lot of energy. You have also something that is, I think, quite unique, and we haven't seen it with other partners working with Microsoft for many years. It's the boot camps. And we not only that you provide this incentive where you get this nice jacket, it's much less expensive, and it's organized as such that people have to join. Again, speaking about pilots and flights, you just tell the people what to do, when to do in order to be certified and pass the external exams. So the result of that is that instead of 4 that maybe are needed for a certain category, all of a sudden we have 8, because more people like to join. It's easy, you get the jacket, and you pay like 10% of the cost. And the result of that is that now we find ourselves not just being a select tier. It seems like it's going to be much easier for us to get to advanced. And getting to advanced, I understand from you that there is an extra discount. And of course, in order to convince some of the people in the company to put the efforts and the resources and the people for a certain task, sometimes it's easier, like the CFO, we're getting an extra 4%. Yeah, you could take another 3 people and you can do more things, right? So I think getting those tips and leads is very, very effective.
Yeah, and the 4% you're referring to, when you hit advanced tier and then you achieve a competency, then you get that 4% additional margin. And I think that's a big goal for a lot of partners. Justine, though, back to you. Just talk about some of your experiences for partners, and the challenge of navigating that AWS ocean, so to speak, but then also maybe you can speak to some of the successes like the guys are too that we're seeing with accelerated development. I think those boot camps are a lot of fun, and to Rez's point, it's a way to get a nifty jacket, but it's a great way to get a lot of your accreditations and your cloud practitioner knocked out too.
Nothing against jackets, by the way.
Jackets are cool.
And certifications are important because at the end of the day, you want to migrate customers to the cloud. So you have to be competent, you have to have skills, you have to show them, you have to shine above the crowd. And doing that in conjunction with hands-on practice and moving some customers, it's priceless, right?
Yeah, that's well said too, by the way.
Yeah, and Tad, to your question, you know, a lot of partners that are just getting started in AWS, all of the issues or hurdles that they have to overcome are the same as other partners. It's a time and time seen again because they're so large, or if you're at register, you know, it's hard to get FaceTime with AWS and find out who you need to talk to and who you need to bring in, and you can't cover, you know, all the resources, and having a distributor like Ingram to come in and be able to help kind of alleviate some of that for you so you can focus on bringing net new customers and finding new workloads. That's how you're going to expand your business. So having programs like advanced development really helps them start to focus and narrow on the cloud and what's important and how to keep pushing forward. You know, some of the things that one recently, I've had a partner that had an immediate public sector opportunity, and they were not at the select tier yet. And because they were partnered with Ingram, we were able to go and petition to AWS to get them to move up to the select tier, get their PSP in place, and help them land that deal so they didn't lose it. And I think that shows a lot of value on how we can actually go to bat for our partners in the long run as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I just realized too, is like we've got great introductions from John and Erez. We didn't get to introduce you. So if you want to tell us a little bit about you and your role at Ingram.
Yeah, so I'm Justine O'Brien. I work in the IaaS West team here at Ingram, focusing specifically on AWS, helping our partners grow and accelerate their businesses and supporting them to make sure that they feel welcome, that they're getting the resources that they need to be successful.
Thanks. And you're part of a larger team, and we've got so many great people across the AWS space dedicated to help partners like Tech Reformers, like Project Host, to be able to you know, I'll keep referring to it because I love the analogy, but to navigate that AWS ocean. Eric, do you have some other thoughts too?
Yeah, I do. You know, I think Erez did a great job of calling out some of those highlights around, you know, training, immersion days, competencies. I'd like to kick it over to John, really for the same type of, I guess, highlights from his point of view around certain things that have really just helped, or ways that Ingram Micro Cloud has helped advancement.
One thing that took a while to get set up, but was just getting our accounts set up through Ingram and having the opportunity to resell our clients to AWS. So, you know, I think a big benefit over just going solo is working through Ingram's billing platform. It has all that support to help you manage clients, and actually you can make more money as a partner, and your clients can save money, and you can add services on top of your billing. So, you know, that's a really great feature that we didn't have when we were going solo.
Yeah, we appreciate it too. The feedback is tremendous, and especially when we're working in sync and in lockstep with our partners. You look at the feedback you're able to provide. Not only does it help us with past and present in terms of how we can be better, but also gives us more of that glimpse into the future in terms of where do we grow from here. And Erez, I'll turn it back over to you. Are you able to tell us about your future with Ingram Micro Cloud, where you see this thing growing to?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and maybe it sounds stupid as an example, but when we started onboarding customers, you have this issue with ACE. It's just a portal or interface with AWS where you have to record customers. And even though it should be simple, it's probably simple, but you can make a lot of mistakes with the process and the steps and when exactly to move a customer from one stage to another. And sometimes it's important because you want to make sure that the consumption is recorded right, because that's how they start accruing your revenue and your consumption. So something like that could be a daunting task, or it can be simple if you have someone who has done that so many times and does that with you. And I think that when it comes to customers and onboarding customers, because of our business model, because of the fact that we have FedRAMP and DoD and StateRAMP, so we are geared toward the public sector. So to have to become a PSP, a public sector partner, to have a PSA, a public sector authorization, those are all kind of prerequisites, if you like, that will allow us to do the right things when we bring new customers. And in fact, now that we are a PSP and we're getting our PSA, we're removing those obstacles or conditions. So when customers talk to us, they say, "Are you even a PSP? Can you onboard on AWS Gov Cloud?" So I guess we can say yes. And now, in fact, we are in touch and engaged with a few customers in the public sector. So removing those bureaucracy obstacles will allow us to grow and scale faster.
Yeah, I think that is a great vision right there, and a great glimpse into what the future holds for Project Host, and certainly how we'll be working in lockstep together. And John, I'll go back over to you. Really the same question. Can you tell us about your future with Ingram Micro Cloud, where you see this thing growing to?
Well, I see Ingram Micro Cloud as a real partner, providing resources that will augment our team. So, we've started that already, where we have Ingram Micro Professional Services sitting in on meetings, helping design customer solutions. So I see it as a partnership that's not just to get us kicked off, but one that will be going forward together.
Yeah, I also want to mention another thing. So Ingram Micro is a large company. I think, I don't know, the revenue was like $54 billion or something like that. You have, in terms of footprint, you're all over the place. So for us to add an ISV, it takes an effort. It takes a process because we're a small company. So I can share with you that Ingram Micro now is allowing us to participate in a campaign that they go after 1,000 ISVs. And the fact that what we have is complementary, because we have those compliances for certain industries, and something that Ingram Micro doesn't have. It's a true synergy, and they are allowing us to participate in this campaign. As such, when there is a lead that could translate into an opportunity, we can immediately come into the process and start working this lead and work together with Ingram Micro. On Friday, we had a training session with about 25 people from Ingram Micro, some of the ISV team based in Scottsdale, and the CSP team. And we had this opportunity for 45 minutes to present what we do in front of 25 people. So it's just an order of magnitude and a scale opportunity for us to be in front of maybe hundreds of ISVs as opposed to a few every quarter.
Yeah, that's a great share. And I think the most exciting thing about it, like I said, we talked about those highlights of past and present, but when you both talk about the future, it really comes across as a clearly laid out vision, obviously for both of your companies, and Ingram Micro working in tandem with you. And it's funny because Tad knows this, always I'm reminded of quotes, whether or not they're always relevant is probably another story, but this one does remind me of the one Jonathan Swift. He was the author of Gulliver's Travels, but he says, vision is the art of seeing what is invisible to others. The cool thing about this is, you get a vision, right? Hearing both of you speak. And like I was going to say a moment ago, the cool thing there is trying to make that vision really visible to others so that they could take advantage of it as well, of what the offerings that we have to work in alignment with our partners, especially when we talk about AWS being that large ocean to navigate. I just feel like that's such a great analogy. But Tad, I'll kick it over to you. Anything else that comes to mind on your end?
Yeah, a few things. So one, I really liked what we were talking about there for professional services and how Ingram can augment a partner's capabilities. So I will point to another podcast that we have around professional services with Ingram. Please take a chance and go ahead and listen to that. But I think this really sums things up. I mean, when we're going through Ingram and the value that we've brought to you guys, I think being in this accelerated development program has done what the name implies, right? It's accelerated what normally would it if you guys were doing this on your own. I mean, John and Rez, give me your feedback, but if you were trying to figure this stuff out on your own, it probably would have taken much longer, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, even the example Rez just gave about the scalability, even the audience for which he's engaging,
Yeah.
10 versus 100.
Yeah, but any mistake you do with onboarding on one of the cloud vendors, and we have a lot of experience with Microsoft, it can take forever to fix it, right? And we're talking about months sometimes, and you have to create tickets and things like assigning a PDM for us. And we just knew that we have you guys on the backend side taking care of stuff that we didn't have to do, but we know how much time it takes every time you open a ticket with a cloud vendor and you try to fix something.
So I do want to take just a minute, Eric. I've got a couple of other thoughts here. So one, and Justine, contribute with this as well, but I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit about, and I'm looking at John and Erez here, talk a little bit about some of the public sector benefits and, working with Don Wells, working with Aaron Livingston, how that's helped you as well. And then Justine, your thoughts on the, working with our public sector team at Ingram. So I'll take it to John first.
Yeah, having the expertise on public sector has helped us. And we haven't talked about the resources that you provide for contracts and data. That's been helpful in finding avenues that we can sell into public sector.
And Erez?
Yeah, I like to second that. I think the ability to provide those contracts, whether it's SOUP through NASA or GSA or NASPO or Omnia, it seems like Ingram Micro created this alliance or ecosystem to some of the partners where you can tap into those contracts and you can all of a sudden find yourself listing your services so you can sell into states through NASPO or to the government through SOUP. And it's just that something that if we were to become a NASPO vendor, I think that we may need to put like half of the company for 12 months just to go through those agreements and documents, and it can drown you. The fact that you have this alliance in place and you can tap into those services, it's just it's not just time, it's impossible to get things like that alone.
Yeah. Justine, any thoughts?
I mean, I love our public sector team. Couldn't do it without them. They are absolutely amazing. They're always there to come on calls and talk about different verticals. We have so many different people that have knowledge in different areas of public sector that we would just not be able to absorb ourselves. So love all the resources that go along with it. What they talked about, which is the Contracts Alliance program. And then, of course, being able to use tools like GovWin is really beneficial to partners to go out there. So they're not spending their own money on those subscriptions and they're able to utilize us for that. So they're the best.
Yeah. And it's, I feel like Oh, go ahead, Erez. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying another service that I think it's available not just in the public sector is the financing part, because we can tell we have now this opportunity that may translate into over 100,000 a month in terms of consumption. So Ingram Micro willing to kind of be liable as the front runner or the main contractor for a small company like us. It's just that it's priceless, right? And you have all those financial vehicles and platforms that you allow small partners to tap into that. So you're the distributor, the main contractor, we're the reseller, and you're the master payer, and we record everything as such that Ingram Micro is the front runner. Then I think that, or the turnkey provider, and I think in terms of scalability, we'll be able to probably sign contracts that normally we can't because of the size and because of the name, because we're not a recognized vendor, and we're not this 800-pound gorilla like Ingram Micro in the market.
Ruth, I think you've done just a great job, you and John both, of really just giving, like I said earlier, just that full visibility and front end vision of the partnership and the value that's entailed to everything that we can provide. When you talk about the financing, you talk about being able to extend, really your geographical reach in ways that perhaps maybe you couldn't otherwise. I just think it's amazing. And again, when you look at some of these discussion points, it's just great to be able to put that out in front of others. So hopefully we can help, more people do the same. Tad and I talk all the time, and Justine, I know you're aligned to this as well. Quite often we say iron sharpens iron, and that's really what we're in, we're in sync with when it comes to just these types of engagements and conversations. So thank you.
Yeah, and I feel like the salesperson here, because I'm like on another episode of Get More from the Cloud. You'll learn so much about our public sector team. So we have an episode dedicated just to that. I think that kind of wraps us for the day. I am going to ask, I've got some family in town, and we've been talking desserts lately. So I was just curious if there's certain desserts that you guys prefer, like what's your favorite? I'll kick off. So I live in Texas, I live in Houston, Texas. And so one of the big things that we enjoy when our family gets together is a nice pecan pie. So really enjoy pecan pie. And of course, there's no calories and no fat in those either. So Eric, what about you?
I'd have to go with a good creme brulee. I don't feel too guilty if I eat one of those. They're usually very small, a little bit of fruit on them typically. Something my wife and I we've agreed on for probably the last 20 years. So probably creme brulee.
Nice. Justine, what about you?
A Pizookie.
Ooh. Oh, like those big kooky Pizookies and stuff.
Yes.
So any particular flavor? Like I know there's chocolate chips and there's other ones. And
Chocolate chip cookies are my favorite, so always those. And the ice cream just depends on my mood, and the toppings as well. So it just depends on what I'm craving, but that's why I like them. You can kind of just put whatever you want on them.
I love that. I love it. All right, John, let's see what do you got for us out in Seattle?
For buying a dessert, I like cheesecake.
Okay.
A perfectly plain one. I grew up in Philly. So
excellent. I knew I liked you for a lot more reasons other than
nothing on it. And then for making one, I've got a tip is just chocolate covered strawberries, because that can be a big hit and it's actually super simple to do.
That's the best for sure.
So, and Erez, let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to disappoint everyone. I like chocolate ice cream, and we kind of have a ceremony, or when we go to Cold Stone. I have 4 kids, and it's a tradition where I go and ask all those questions about the flavors, and eventually I order chocolate ice cream. So my kids, every time we go into an ice cream store, they're getting nervous because they know I'm going to do it again. I'm going to ask all kind of questions, take all those tasting with small spoons, and then chocolate ice cream. So that's what I like the most.
Whereas I'm not going to throw stones, I do the same thing with strawberry ice cream. So we're kindred spirits in that regard.
I love it. I love it. Well, those are great answers, everybody. So John, Justine, Erez, thanks so much for your time. Eric, my friend, it's always a pleasure when we do these. I love doing these together. Look for more episodes of Get More from the Cloud. Anything to round us out as we go, Eric?
All good on my end. Just really just enjoyed the time, speaking with everybody today. Now I'm ready for Thanksgiving and dessert afterwards, and a lot of good ideas out there. If I have to borrow some.
Well, thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Take
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Get More from the Cloud, a podcast by AWS cloud experts at Ingram Micro Cloud.